Welcome all to Season 2 of the Reflective Parent Podcast. I continue to be your host, Jason Denham, founder of Awaken Shadow Coaching and the Reflective Parent Pod and Support Group. I've got 20 plus years working with families in crisis, sitting at the table where the downstream damage of disconnection actually lands. Watching what happens to teenagers who are raised on content that taught them betrayal is inevitable and trust is naive. Watching parents who surveil their kids instead of connecting with them. In some cases, parents who drift into distraction, which creates an unintentional distance that now we're trying like crazy to repair. Because we are now seeing isolation, spiral into substance use, self-harm, and more. So Season 1 of the Reflective Parent Podcast, episodes 1 through 4, released in 2024. This was a bit of a teaching and a getting to know you and how to show up for your kids. Season 2 asks a harder question. What is getting in the way of showing up? The bridge between the two seasons is my own journey. Season 2 is a demonstration of what it looks like to do the reflective work. So I'm taking a little examination of culture forces, the content, the technologies, and the silence that are eroding connection. And I'm going to start by examining my own path. This models the exact process of what it is that I'm asking the parents who will become reflective parents to engage in. Stepping into uncomfortable territory, remembering the lessons that shaped me and that shaped you. Honoring people who helped me become who I am, and using all of that to show up more fully for listeners just like you. The name Reflective Parent isn't just a brand. It's a methodology. See, Season 1 introduced it, Season 2 lives it. So episode 4 of Season 1 is where I took a harder stance on screens for the first time. And that's kind of what the hinge point is here. So the core premise is this. Every day, millions of people consume content that presents itself as helpful, protective, or truthful. Cheating detection apps that promise security. Political content that promises awareness. Gender war content that promises understanding. In every case, the surface level promise is the same. This will keep you safe. But the actual function of this content is the opposite. It teaches people that other humans are threats. It replaces the discomfort of vulnerability with the illusion of control. And it is systemically eroding our ability to trust, connect, and build lasting relationships. I know you've seen it. This series examines that pattern, not by arguing politics, not by taking sides in culture wars, but by slowing down long enough to ask one question. What is this actually doing to us? What's it doing to me? So what makes this series not just random episodes, but something we're building towards is every episode follows the same underlying structure, regardless of the topic. Something presents itself as helpful or truthful or protective. The actual function is to isolate people from each other by making connection feel dangerous. The cost shows up in how we see the person sitting across from us at dinner. The pattern is always the same, only the packaging changes. So, Season 2, Episode 1, The Cost of Silence. What happens when good people stop saying what they see? The cultural pattern of self-censorship and what it's doing to families, professionals, and communities. This is my personal reckoning with my own silence as people-pleasing in shadow. See, it sets the tone for the entire season, sitting in a seat of courageous vulnerability. So what do you think? Is it time to pull up a seat and sit at the table? Have some hard conversations, maybe even some conversations with real illumination that helps us to grow to change, to see ourselves, our neighbors, our family, the people that matter most. Instead of stepping all the way back and taking a look at an entire worldview and feeling helpless against all the things that are happening. One step at a time, one breath at a time, slowing down so that we can see things right-sized as they are. So a quick honest moment before we get going. This episode is sponsored by absolutely no one. None, not a soul. And I really do hope that changes one day. Because picture it, your product, something that ties into what we believe in here at Reflective Parent Podcast. Imagine the possibilities. Until that glorious day arrives, here's the simple way to support what we're building. Come follow along on Instagram and Facebook. Jump in the comments. Say hi. Tell me what you're wrestling with as a parent right now. This is the part I actually care about. The whole thing runs on connection. If you're ready to take this step further, the Family Agreement Workshop is open right now inside the Reflective Parent Support Group. It's the first piece of something bigger I'm building over the coming weeks. So if you come in early, you get to grow right alongside it. And hey, if you're feeling generous, there's a Zelle and a Venmo out there with my name on them. And I will never say no to a coffee. Like, follow, share, and subscribe if today's episode moved you. But most of all, connect. That's the whole reason we're here. Now, pull up a chair. All right, welcome back to the Reflective Parent Podcast, episode 1 of season 2, The Cost of Silence. So just to set the stage here, this is a show about one question. What is this costing us? Every episode, we're going to look at something that millions of people engage with every day, something that promises to be helpful, protective, or true. And we're going to slow down long enough to count the cost. I'm not here to tell you what to think. And I'm not here to argue politics. I'm an integrative family coach. I've spent 20 years sitting across from families in crisis. And I keep seeing the same pattern. By the time people land in my office, something has been silently eating away at their ability to connect. And most of the time, they didn't even see it happening. So this first episode is personal. Because before I ask you to look at anything uncomfortable, I think I owe you the honesty of looking at myself first. After all, reflective parenting, reflective coach. So here's what I want to talk about today. Silence. Not the peaceful kind, the expensive kind. So the problem is self-censorship. In some cases, it's on a small scale, a cultural pattern. And in some cases, it becomes a larger cultural pattern. So what does self-censorship do to us? There are conversations that thoughtful people have stopped having out loud. Not because they stopped caring, not because they don't have anything else to say, because the cost of saying it got too high. The risk of being misunderstood, labeled, sorted into a camp you don't belong to, that risk became bigger than the risk of staying quiet. So good people went silent. Teachers, coaches, parents, professionals, people who actually have wisdom and experience. They opted out of the hard conversations. And here's what happened when they did. The only voices left were the loudest ones, the ones with the least nuance and the most certainty, the ones who have no interest in understanding, only in winning. And now we all look around and think that's the conversation. We think those loud voices represent what everyone believes. They don't. They represent what happens when everyone else leaves the room. But here's the part few are talking about. The people who went silent. They're not at peace. They're anxious. So there's a hidden cost here, right? The silent majority isn't calm. They're scanning every conversation for landmines. They're editing themselves before they speak. They're exhausted from the constant calculation of what's safe to say. And here's where it lands in the families they work with. Parents who sense something is off with their kiddo, but won't name it because the cultural script says naming it makes you the problem. Spouses who disagree about something important, but won't say it because last time someone in their world disagreed publicly, they watched them get destroyed. Professionals who see a colleague making a decision they know is harmful, and they stay quiet because professional risk of speaking up is too high. The silence isn't neutral. It teaches. Your kids are watching you edit yourself. They're watching you scan the room before you speak. Always watching. And the lesson they're absorbing is that honesty is dangerous. That belonging requires performing agreement you don't feel. That the safest thing to do when you see something wrong is to look the other way. That's not a lesson any of us would teach on purpose, but it's the lesson silence teaches by default. And I know this because I've been doing it myself. I've been a coach for a long time. I've been in recovery for over a decade. I've sat with hundreds of families. I have things to say about what I see happening in the world. Things informed by real experience with real people in real pain. And I haven't been saying them. I told myself I was being strategic. I was being careful. I was being neutral or waiting for the right time. Got to build my platform first. And every one of those reasons sounded wise. They sounded mature. They sounded like growth. I've always been a really impulsive person. And when I was young, I was really, really emotional. I think I was running from it. See, I haven't been that person for a long time. Here's what I learned about myself in recovery. The voice that kept me sick was never the one that sounded reckless. It was the one that sounded reasonable. Just one more. You've earned this. Tomorrow will be different. The most dangerous lies I ever told myself were the ones that sounded like wisdom. I'm just not ready to speak up yet, was one of them. It was strategy. It was the same people-pleasing pattern that kept me small for years, just wearing a different outfit. I was still trying to get everyone to like me enough that I could spend down some rapport. I was still more afraid of being misunderstood. I have a few examples of when I spoke up and the cost was high. I worked at a couple of different places where the care and concern for people who are there is really real and it's really high. I worked in a place where I warned that there was some unsafe procedure happening and it needed to change. And it resulted in me being shut down. I wasn't able to advance. What I attempted to share with the management came to pass because it was an unsafe procedure. And still, I wasn't spoken to. There wasn't any acknowledgement. There wasn't any leeway given. There was no repair. I moved on. I got into sober management. And I worked in a place that wasn't upholding the standards for the sober house that kept all the men safe there. I fought tooth and nail to try to make sure that we were taking care of the men as best we could. I was told that I was too invested, too much. One of the men was relapsing and was essentially allowed to relapse. I heard that he wasn't feeling well, and I visited his apartment and tried to get him to go to the hospital. And he refused to go. On my way home from work that night, the fire engines and ambulance were passing me. And I just remember standing there going, please don't turn right, don't turn right, don't turn right, don't turn right. And all of them turned right. I came home to find that he had fallen in the shower and he had internal bleeding. He passed away. All of my efforts were dismissed and he was gone. The next day, the person that was overseeing the houses had his stupid little clipboard and was ticking off boxes of things that we had to do to send things back to this person's family. And he said, wow, everything you said would happen happened. I quit that day. Sometimes we make choices. And my choice was to be softer and to say less because it wasn't working. I may have overcompensated on that for the fear of being misunderstood. On my website, it says, show up with courageous vulnerability. That's what this episode is. I don't know how this is going to go. I'm probably going to be misunderstood. But I have to be courageous about this. I have been doing this work for a long time. I can see and sometimes sense what's going to happen just a little bit downriver. I'm working tirelessly to be heard, but more importantly, to say it in a way that it is able to be heard, received. Because I don't want to lose anyone else on my watch. Now, that's ridiculous. We can't save the world and we can't protect everyone from all harms. But I do want to try my best. So we need to have the hard conversations. Or I'm not a coach. So I'm not going to tell you to start arguments. I'm not going to tell you to post your opinions on the internet. Please don't do that. Stay off of those things. That's not what this is about. What I'm going to ask you to do this week, just notice. Notice one moment where you edit yourself. Not because what you were going to say was wrong, not because it was unkind or poorly timed, but because you're afraid of how it would land. Just see it. You don't have to change anything yet. Just catch the moment and ask yourself 2 questions. What did that silence cost me? What did it cost the person who needed to hear what I didn't say? It's one of the 6 seats in the family table method, my proprietary offering, the long game. It's a hard seat to sit in sometimes. That's it. That's the whole assignment. If you felt something listening to this, that's what this show is going to be. Every episode, we're going to look at something that presents itself as helpful and ask what it actually is costing us. Next episode, we're going to look at a specific piece of technology that promises to protect your most important relationship and might be doing the opposite. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to the whole thing. That alone, sitting with something uncomfortable instead of swiping past it, that's the beginning of something different. Hey, I'll see you soon.